Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thank you all for joining. I am excited to welcome Dr. Noor into the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Kyra.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching out there who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yes. So my name is Noor, originally from New York City. My educational background is internal medicine and general surgery. I do love clinical medicine, but I'm not practicing clinical medicine right now. What I've been doing for the past 5 years is really more on the business and entrepreneur side. My primary business is health insurance consulting. So I help female founders all over the country either navigate going from full-time corporate to full-time entrepreneurship or growing, remote teams and they don't know what to do about health insurance. Things like just turning 26 and aging off of parents' plans, COBRAs. Those are some of the situations that I love to help with. And in my experience, meeting and working with all of these incredible women who are just accomplishing so much, the connector inside me thought, well, how do I just kind of like bring these women together who don't know about each other? But I know that if they were to meet and learn about each other, their businesses would just exponentially kind of boom. So that brought to life my second entrepreneurial venture, which is Think Like a Woman, where I host these highly curated roundtable business networking brunch experiences all over the country. And it's been a lot of fun really just building that community because I'm leaning into my skill of, bringing people together and lubricating connections. And it's been such a fun, experience just to like learn about new things. I'm also working on some retail ventures in the lifestyle space and ready to drink alcoholic beverage space. So I feel like I've come a
Yeah.
very long way from medicine and I'm doing
Yes.
all of these things, but it's just so exciting and it's so fun for me and I love it. And I know women listening might be able to relate because, we're all talking to ambitious women about ambitious women. So I just love all of it.
Well, I absolutely love everything that you do, but I have to ask, we have to talk about the transition, right? So, starting in medicine, and surgery.
Yeah.
So, and then you transition to the first part of your venture, which was really helping people on the insurance side.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. And then also, can you talk about whether you had apprehension about making this transition?
Oh my gosh, totally. 100,000%. So that was not an intentional transition. I'll say that. So a little bit about my backstory. I've always known that I wanted to be a doctor since I was like 5 years old. It was like everybody knew, my whole family knew, like this is kind of like where I was headed. So I went to medical school right after high school. I just skipped undergrad. I'm like, well, I know this is what I want to do. So let's just go for it. Let's just do it. And I did really, really well in medical school. I graduated with a 4.0 GPO, top three in my class, accelerated med surge program. I was crushing it. But I got married the final year of medical school. And after I completed my training back home, which was abroad in Bangladesh, I had to move back to the States. And the way it works for foreign doctors like myself is we don't have to go through medical school again, but there's a series of licensing exams to pass in order to practice medicine in the States. And the first of those, a series of exams, there was a really big disconnect with what I was practicing professionally, practicing surgery and kind of those basic science topics that I had learned like 7, 8 years ago at that time. So I struggled with that a lot and I didn't pass the test. I failed it by one question. And that crushed me in every which way. I lost all sense of professional identity because medicine was all I knew. I never went to undergrad. I didn't have any other skills. I was trying to apply for jobs and do something while I was studying, but no one was hiring me because I'm so qualified in practice, but I'm just a high school graduate on paper. So I really struggled at that time and I didn't know what to do. And the only opportunity that I got was for health insurance in a sales role. And in the beginning, I was like, well, nobody else is giving me a chance. This is my only shot. I got to figure this out. I got to do it. And at the same time, I'm surrounded by my colleagues they don't have nearly as much education as I have because in the sales environment, you don't need and I'm hyper educated. So there was that disconnect. And yeah, it was really tough at first. And it was tough in many, many different ways. But I told myself that if I can figure out medicine, I can figure this out. I just need a win. And in fact, I'm smarter than all of the people around me combined, probably. I can do more than figure this out. I can make this better. And I didn't like the way that things were being done in the industry. It resonate with me. So I just kind of deconstructed the whole customer experience journey when it comes to purchasing health insurance. And I reinvented it in a way that was more authentic, aligned, that felt like that. And this is how I would like to be treated if I was going through this experience. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I absolutely. So first of all, I want to thank you for your transparency, because I think it really shows your resilience and also how you embrace change. You embrace the changes that were before you and you didn't quit. You could have easily like said no, but you kept pushing through. So kudos to you for that. But also, it's so needed, right? With these healthcare options and so many people who decide to form their own businesses. I mean, I was talking to a friend about a month ago, and we were talking about that, like a business venture and getting people set up for insurance and just trying to figure out like what she was like, I don't know, like what do I need to do? And I mean, but I love that, you do help women because I feel like women have special, we have special needs that are really different sometimes when we're looking at healthcare plans. So, why was it so important for you as you started to establish this segment of your business to sort of create this marketplace for women business owners?
A lot of it was, I don't want to use the word selfish, but it was more like what I saw in the market
Mhm,
was a reflection of myself. I put
mhm,
myself in the customer's shoes. I realized that on my sales calls, those that I was speaking with, I really connected with other women who are like me, who are like minded,
mhm,
who had kids, who are navigating motherhood and building businesses, who were,
mhm,
a higher education, high achieving. And those calls, when I was speaking with these women, they didn't feel like sales calls. It felt like a friendly conversation where we
mhm.
were connecting over values. I'm like, well, this
Yeah.
is great. This is easy. I don't have to like sell. I don't have to do. And I want more of that. So that's
Yeah.
really when I decided to kind of go deeper into this market because it just felt so great. The connections were authentic. I was able to build my referral network part of my business much more
Mhm.
rapidly. So it just felt easy. It felt in flow. And that's why I decided to go farther in because I saw myself in that market.
Yes. And I think it's very authentic, when you can see yourself and it's empathy, right? It's very empathetic to other people because I will tell you, I think that's one of the first things that everyone fears. Whether you are someone starting a business or you're
Yeah.
someone who's an independent contractor, and you're trying to figure out like, how do I get coverage? And I think I do. I don't want to. I mean, I'm making an assumptive guess here, everyone, but I do feel like a lot of times when people want to step out and they want to do something for themselves, sometimes they don't because they're thinking about, well, I've got healthcare at my job. I've got insurance. I've got life insurance through my job, and a lot of times people get discouraged because they're thinking, oh man, I don't know what to do first. So if I or any one of my fabulous listeners out there is thinking, what do I do first, Dr. Noor? Tell me. What should someone do first when they're looking to purchase like an affordable healthcare plan?
That's a fantastic question. And you're absolutely right. This is one of the biggest fears that hold people back from either going full time into their side hustle or even expanding their presence in a big way because they're afraid to lose these great corporate benefits, which I'm not
Mhm,
denying. It's definitely there. Though, depending on the size of the corporation that you work for, you might have some amazing benefits and that could be hard to lose. But at one
mhm,
point, you have to make a decision like, is this worth it? And to make that decision, you got to get some numbers. You need to understand how
mhm,
much is my healthcare going to cost if I'm not relying on my employer for those benefits. So the first point of discernment on how to decide or start your point of research is understand which market you want to shop in for your individual healthcare. There's two markets. There's a public healthcare marketplace, the private healthcare marketplace, two completely different worlds with hardly any overlap. Now, the public market is also called ACA. It's federally regulated but state sponsored. So, where you live has everything to do with what plan options are available to you.
mhm,
You can hop online to healthcare.gov or healthsherpa.com, punch in your information, and get a list of plans that are going to be available to you. Now, this is a guaranteed issue platform, which means anyone can get a plan. You lose your benefits, you can get a plan. However, the monthly premiums are based strictly on income. So typically, the only time I recommend someone is if you're lower income, this is going to be a better market for you because you can qualify for a government subsidy. Now, what does that mean? Income below 20,000 qualifies you for free healthcare in America. That's called Medicaid. Between 20 to 50,000 for a household size of one, you're on a sliding scale subsidy where the government will pay a portion of your premiums in the form of a temporary tax credit. So take advantage of that if you're just starting out, is income is 50,000 and below, or you have major chronic conditions or pre-existing conditions that require heavy treatment, expensive medications. The public market is going to be the best place to start for you. However, if you're in a situation where your income is above 50,000 or, over six figures, let's say, and you're generally healthy, don't have a whole lot of healthcare needs, you're going to find a lot more value options on the private market. And that's where I would start the research. So that's the first place to start, is figure out, where do I fall? How can I leverage my current situation and take advantage of which market to shop in for healthcare?
Mhm, mhm. Look at that. Look at Dr. Nora here dropping these nuggets for us, y'all. I love that because it just feel like it's just there are two things. It's like healthcare and people talking about taxes. Like those are things that people are like, let's not
Afraid.
talk
Yeah.
about, yeah, let's
Yeah.
not talk about those things out loud. So tell me when you were transitioning into your own businesses. So obviously you've got this first venture, right?
Yeah.
And then you said, I mean, you have a fabulous reason for why you wanted to connect women and continue to grow into this additional business of Think Like a Woman. Now, when you decided to do that, what like what steps did you take? Did you just immediately know, like, I want to start a second business? Because that's a lot, right? I mean, you've got
Yeah.
a full-time business that you're running, and then you're starting a second business, or you started a second
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. You're right. You know what, Kyra, I don't know what the heck I was thinking at the time. I just went head first thinking like, yeah, I got this. It's formulaic at this point. I know exactly what to do. I honestly, even with all, being experienced by that time, I way
Mhm.
underestimated like the amount of work and money and effort and toil it would take. I still do to this day, but I think that's just my personality is, I just go head first into it. I'm like, I'll
Yeah.
figure out the rest. The body will come later. And I recall before the business even existed, I filed a trademark for it. And my a trademark attorney at the time, we were talking. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I just did it. And it's after like I think 18 months, my trademark certificate just got in. So Think Like a Woman is officially a trademark brand now. And she's like, I recall at that time, it was like, we just went in when nothing even existed. We just went straight for the kill. So I think that just might be my personality, where I'm just like, I'll commit first and I'll figure the rest
Mhm.
out later.
Well, I really appreciate that because I do feel like when you are an entrepreneur, like you just sort of have to take the leap.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people are sitting and trying to perfect something and just like spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, like sort of like a paralysis, right? Um, by what is it? Paralysis by
And now, yeah,
analysis.
analysis
Analysis.
paralysis.
I
Yeah.
always say analysis paralysis, but I've heard people say paralysis by analysis. And I was like, well, that's not like you add a lot of words when it's just
Yeah.
like
You're making it harder,
analysis.
baby.
Yeah, it's like analysis paralysis. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, like a lot of people don't ever like get off the launch pad because they are constantly like coming up with ways to like tell themselves like, it's not going to work, or I need to do this one more thing, or I need more money. I need da da da, da, all those things. So I really appreciate you saying, I'm going, you said head first and the body will come.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, but
I
I'm
think
just
that's like what I envisioned. So I just say,
think I'm going to steal that, just so
yeah.
FYI. So Think Like a Woman.
Yeah.
Tell us about the events and where are they going to be? What happens at them? How can people get involved?
Yes, yes. So this is so wonderful. I can talk about this all day. This is my really really my baby. So I've had events in New York City, in Miami, in Tampa, where I am locally. Rest of the year we have events coming up in Austin, Nashville, Philadelphia, LA, and I'm flying into my own event. So a lot of the guests also fly into these events as well. So if you're not local but you want to maybe visit the city for a weekend and have a cool brunch,
Mhm.
definitely keep an open mind to that. I think that's a great idea. So the concept of these events is, again, highly curated business networking. So Kyra, if you are interested in one of my events and you say, well, this is what I'm looking for in my business right now. I'm looking to expand to, 10 new clients the next month or so, right?
Mhm.
Now, someone at the table, even though it won't be like every single member at the table is a potential client or prospect for you, I'll be introducing you to another woman who maybe has access to a community of hundreds of
Mhm.
women which are going to be ideal prospects and clients for you. And then you develop and build that relationship. So
Mhm.
it's what I want you to think about. It's not a one-to-one introduction. It's kind of a one-to-many kind of access to open doors, and it's building
Mhm.
upon those relationships, because the women at this table are really higher level, higher caliber, C-suite women who have access to
Mhm.
networks and communities and influence, which could be very beneficial for your business.
Mhm.
And then the next level is value-based curating. So there's themes around every table, if, motherhood, relationships, there's going to be
Mhm.
women that you connect with because there's this value-based matching. Maybe you're a dog mom and there's other dog moms, or maybe you
Mhm.
grew up in a
Mhm.
small city. And that's kind of like the behind the scenes work that I do to bring everyone together. So when you're having
Mhm.
this brunch experience, you're going to fall in love with the person next to you and you might not even know why. So
Mhm.
it's that. And there's three core elements to these experiences. So what you get with the brunch is, of course, three-course fine dining in a beautiful elevated sitting, unlimited drinks. You get this huge reusable tote bag filled with sponsored, customized gifts from sponsors that are worth well over $2,000. And then the three elements are a fashion. So I want you to dress up embodying your next level self. So
Mhm.
whatever that next level in business is for you, whether it's revenue or you want to live this lifestyle, show up dressed as her, because you're going to get professional portraits of you in that,
Mhm. Mhm.
dressed up in that next level self in this beautiful elevated space. The next is storytelling. So there's no speakers at my events. We all get an equal chance to speak and share our stories of where we came from, where we're trying to go, and how the table can help us reach those goals.
Mhm.
And then lastly, bring your own success. So I ask you, each ticket holder is going to bring another guest who they look up to. Maybe they're, next level of business, or they have a family that they
Mhm.
aspire to someday. So someone who inspires you. And I think it's a really beautiful way to share the experience with someone,
Mhm.
someone else. So that's what the
Mhm.
events are about.
Oh, I love that. It's such a unique
Thank you.
experience.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so how can the audience listening or watching connect to you and learn more about the events?
Yes, you guys can follow the Instagram. It's think.likeawoman. You can also check out the website at thinklikeawoman.co. Because it's invite only, I do like an application base, because I want to know what you're looking for so I can
Mhm.
deliver. So if you say, hey, this is me, this is what I'm looking for, I can then reach
Mhm.
out to you when I say, hey, this table is a perfect fit. I've got like all of these people here who can kind of meet those needs. So if you're
Mhm.
interested in attending an event, definitely fill out that application. You can find it on the website or the link in bio for the Instagram, and just check out some of the content, some of the past events. I think a vibe check is really important for something like this where it's
Mhm.
so intimate. If you think it's your vibe, I encourage you guys to apply, reach out to me, ask questions.
Awesome. Love that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
make sure and we'll drop all the links into the show notes as well. All right. So I have to ask you, as an entrepreneur, what do you like most about being your own boss, and what is something that is your least favorite thing?
Oh my gosh, it's probably like a very common answer. And I think, like, for example, I think back to times where like my son was sick or I had a family emergency, like being
Mhm.
able to like cancel everything at a moment's
Mhm.
notice is huge. And that
Mhm.
gives me there's such a sense of empowerment. Like, hey, I got to be a mom right now, cancel everything for the next week,
Right.
and to
Yeah.
be able to do that in a moment's notice, I think is
Yeah.
incredible. Being able to also, block my calendar and take time off when I want to, I really love that.
Mhm.
But at the
Mhm.
same token, it's when you're running all of the things, my mind is on 24/7
Yeah.
until like my consciousness is asleep. I am thinking about my businesses and my to-do list, which never,
Mhm.
stops. And
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's really hard. And I'm actively aware of that. And I try to manage it, but it's been impossible so far to not think about like how to grow the businesses or this idea or this
Mhm.
to-do list. I think that part is really hard.
Yeah. Well, after all, it is your baby. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But I appreciate that because, yes, I think the flexibility is something that most entrepreneurs are striving, right, to just be able to have that better flexibility in their life. So, thank you for sharing that. All right. So now we're going to move into three things with Dr. Noor. Going to ask you three questions, just helps us get to know you a little bit better. The first question is a two-parter. So this will be interesting because your mind is always on. So how do you start and end the day?
I It's the same answer. I start and end with gratitude, like all the time. So before I get out of bed, I'm making sure that I am deeply sensing and feeling gratitude for at least three very specific things. And if I'm not like, I don't have the time space to always write it down because I'm rushing or I have a kid, I just make sure that before I get out of bed, I'm feeling it at least. I call it like a gratitude flow.
Mhm.
Whether it's a safe place to sleep, a warm bed, my family, the health of my family, my money in the bank, something, I make sure that at least three things I feel that gratefulness. And same thing when I end the night. I make sure that I review either the same things or different things, or just kind of like what
Mhm.
three things that I love about my day. So I end in positivity. I do have the 5 minute journal, which is a gratitude journal. I don't always get a chance to write in it, which is why I make sure
Mhm.
that I do it mentally at least.
Awesome. Love that. All
Yeah.
right. Number two is what's a goal or an intention that you've set for yourself this year?
More white space on my calendar.
Mhm.
I think the calendar gets so packed, and every time there is a space and there's an opportunity, I try to fill that space. So to be more intentional about leaving that space alone. Hey, you have
Mhm.
nothing there. Let's leave it nothing there to have that more mental space for clarity, for creative work. I've actually limited my time for availability for calls on my calendar to
Mhm.
open up those white spaces, and just being very mindful of, if it's white, you leave it white, do nothing, but
Exactly.
don't try to fill it in.
Yes. And the last question is what's inspiring you? So, book, podcast, show, or anything that is inspiring you in this moment.
I think I myself have been very inspirational to me this year, which is very interesting because I've never actually felt that way or said that before.
Okay. Uh-huh.
I'm honoring myself with all of my accomplishments and my dreams and goals. So I
Mhm.
have been inspiring myself and allowing myself to be more creative, and take those white spaces on my calendar to just honor myself, love myself, and lean
Mhm.
into more creativity.
I love that. That's awesome. Think more of us could have that attitude about ourselves. Like, yeah, we're inspiring ourselves. So
Yeah.
kudos to you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for coming here today and sharing with this audience. But I'm going to ask you one last thing before I let you go is to leave the audience with three things you'd like them to take away from this conversation today.
Yes. The three things I want you guys to keep in mind is don't give up, no matter what, no matter how hard it gets. It's easy to give up, and that's okay. You can take breaks, you can slow down, you can rest, but don't ever give up on your dreams. Just make that a promise to yourself that you won't give up, and that's it. That's all success is. It's just to never give up and to keep going.
Mhm.
The second thing is at every stage or milestone, make sure you stop and acknowledge and celebrate how far you've come, because it's all a journey and it never ends. Like there's never an arrival point. So if we're not celebrating the milestone, then we're just kind of going without ever
Mhm.
stopping to look back at how far we've come. And the third one is really to be kind to yourself. And be graceful, be kind. Like I feel like we're in this plugged in society where expectations are at an all time high, and that just
Mhm.
becomes wired into our brain and habits of hustle culture, which is not
Mhm.
bad. Like there's no replacing hard work. Like you got to work hard to get to where you
Mhm.
have to. There's nothing around that. But be kind to yourself in the process, because if you fail or if you don't meet the expectations, it's actually okay. Like everything's fine if you don't meet your own expectations because you set those expectations. So
Mhm.
everything's okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I love those.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I will say, Dr. Nora, you can always come back here and see us at the Glow Up Girl podcast in the future. But best of luck this year with all of your events and everything that you're working on. And please always, keep us in mind. Come back and see us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation, Kyra. I really appreciate you giving me the platform to share my story, the projects that I'm working on. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.